Can Bethesda still fix Fallout 76? I feel like this video is going to be somewhat controversial, and I don't really know why. I feel like this is actually a pretty genuine question to ask. I would say arguably even 1 year later, Bethesda hasn't been able to fix Fallout 76 thus far. Certain aspects of the game have certainly improved, but certain aspects haven't. And even beyond that, they kind of have had that whole rolling controversy where every few months or like once a quarter, there's some big issue, which maybe you think mostly that is just things getting blown out of proportion, but I think it's worth a discussion either way. There's no doubt Bethesda can improve the game still, but can they actually get it to a state where it is regarded as good? Have a similar comeback story to the likes of No Man's Sky or even something like Star Wars Battlefront. I made a video pretty similar to this, basically identical to this, earlier this year. Although in the 9 or so months since that one, we have learned a lot, one, about Bethesda, and also just seen a lot of what they can do with this game. So I think it really is a good question to talk about again as we pass this 1 year anniversary. So in this video, I'm going to give my opinions on that, and this obviously is kind of a step away from most of my typical content that is factually based. This one's pretty much just opinionated. Wastelanders, I think, is the real pivot point, the thing everyone has their eyes on as the potential recovery mark for Fallout 76. Bethesda is adding in a lot of much requested features, dialogue options, human NPCs, true choice and consequence, and hopefully as a result, real replayability. And although I have no doubt that that will drastically improve that game, get a lot of people playing again, I do now have some doubts about the recovery Bethesda can expect from that. There's a couple of aspects to this, but the one side of the coin to me is really that even 1 year after release, there are several major issues with this game Bethesda just seems unable to fix. Even though the base game of Fallout 76, now 1 year later, is in a vastly better state bugginess-wise, things like exploits, cheating, and server stability still remain major problems with this game. Aside from cheating, with exploits, especially duping exploits, which seem to be the most popular, as well as server stability, how often you crash, server lag, it almost feels like they're on a cyclical cycle. Some updates, it's actually pretty good. Servers feel stable, duping is relatively uncommon, and there's not too many widely known duping exploits, but then just recently we saw a reversion from that. With one of the recent Halloween events, crashing was at an all-time high. As of late, duping has really made a comeback. There have been many widely known duping methods, and although Bethesda has been diligent in trying to fix these problems, it is a constant back and forth. Even further and separate from this, cheating has always been a problem with Fallout 76, but now is particularly obvious when looking at the Battle Royale mode, and in particular because it gives you such a clear and obvious competitive advantage, while cheating in a PvE mode isn't really super rewarding and most people just won't notice. We've been pretty much talking about hacks or cheats for that mode since it came out, and it's not like it is non-existent. Just over the past few days, I would say in about 25% of my games, it ends with me getting killed by a cheater. That's insane. That is a very high number for a mode that is now 4 or 5 months old at this point. It's not like there hasn't been enough time to clear out some of those problems. It's not like they're even new problems. Some new cheat was just created that's revolutionary. And to be clear with this one, I don't want to make it seem like I don't think Bethesda has fixed or improved Fallout 76. If you look at the game on release and look at it today, they have done a lot to improve things. Not only some fundamental bugs or issues, but also just a ton in the way of quality of life features, making the experience as it exists quite a bit more enjoyable. But with subsequent updates, we've seen new bugs enter the fray, and we've seen old ones just get a little bit older, and it does raise some doubt in me as to why those haven't been fixed. And although, for me at least, I don't think these are necessarily game-breaking inherently, they are lingering issues that do taint the experience, that make Fallout 76 feel a bit worse. And although I am absolutely hopeful that these are fixable problems, things that we actually see go away almost completely at one point, the thing that keeps kind of nagging me about that is, if they couldn't do it in 1 year, why would I expect that in another 6 months and another year that they will be able to do it? For several of these, it seems like the core problem is the fact that they took a fundamentally single-player engine and put multiplayer on top. There have been a lot of lingering issues as a result of that, but at the same time, you do question whether or not this is actually a technical limitation or a technical struggle, or rather just kind of mismanagement, as I think that's really the other side of the coin that really does have me concerned about the future of Fallout 76 and its potential fixability. I think it's pretty clear to everyone that Bethesda has had this kind of rolling controversy. On release, there was a lot of backlash, and then after that, they actually really cleaned up their act. They were communicating well, they started the Inside the Vault series. It felt like some of the major issues were getting responses, and as they progressed into the first DLC wave earlier in 2019, I think the game really reached a high point. And at that point, I really thought we were starting to see the Fallout 76 comeback story. Unfortunately, in the months that follows, it feels like Bethesda kind of reverted back to where they were previously. Every quarter or so, there is a kind of major controversy around this game. I don't know, I would say one degree of this is there are YouTubers as well as journalists who realize that, hey, covering Fallout 76 problems gets views and clicks. But at the same time, the counter argument to that, every single one of those problems did have a core issue at them. Maybe some got blown out of proportion, but oftentimes there was a genuine thing Bethesda was doing badly there. Fallout First is definitely pretty questionable. You just had a big DLC delay, as well as no new content's really on the horizon for several months. The game still is in need of major updates and fixes, and you release a subscription service, the optics on that one just aren't super good. Or even earlier in 2019, while we saw massive ban waves and users not getting responses, or users having to write essays to get unbanned from the game, after a certain point, it really seems like part of the problems we're seeing with Fallout 76 aren't just bad luck, they're actually mismanagement. Many games have bad releases. That's nothing really new. It definitely seems to be more popular as of late, but even over the past few years, Anthem, Star Wars Battlefront 2, and even major titles like Battlefield 5 have had very bad negative PR around release. Fallout 76 finds itself in a similar boat in that regard, but with all those other games, it feels like everybody just kind of forgot about them. The developers hunkered down or just got quiet. I mean, you don't really hear people talking about Anthem anymore. There probably is some stuff happening with that, but it doesn't have this staying power that Fallout 76 seems to have, with controversy after controversy, with Bethesda making a bad decision after a bad decision. And I think for some users, that alone has really soured things for them. Some users just don't want to see the game succeed, or they don't want to play this game due to that negative press. And this is still happening basically right now. Just recently, Bethesda announced Fallout First, a paid subscription service for the game, which obviously problemsome. Even further, they almost positioned it as if the community was asking for some of those utility items, which just makes it far worse. And it seems like their strategy, their plan with handling the backlash of that is just ignore it. There still has been no real official response as to some of the outcry or people's criticisms of it, and rather they just remained silent or only talked about fixes around it. Like when one of the new features breaks, like it did the day after release as well as the week after release. Which might be like, oh wow, well that's pretty expected of a company, except this is a company that just 1 year prior made a whole post about communicating better with their community, specifically saying thank you and please don't stop letting us know how we can improve our communication and what else needs to be addressed in the game. But now it's pretty clear they're not really listening anymore. So taking those two major factors together, some of the lingering in-game issues and the constant mismanagement of this game, it does get me really wary about the future. To be clear with this, I don't think Fallout 76 isn't going to improve. It will almost certainly improve. I think Wastelanders will be a great addition to this, and I'm very excited for it. But as far as Fallout 76 actually making a full comeback, being regarded as a pretty good game, like many people view No Man's Sky today, which is pretty astonishing when you actually look at where the game started, I have serious doubts around that. I feel like Fallout 76 might be one of those games that always just has these problems. I do really hope I'm wrong, and I think I'm slightly biased hoping I'm wrong, but at the same time, if you look at the evidence, if you look at the past year, there definitely is a telling story there. And especially for those who are actively playing this game 1 year after release with 1 year of updates, do you feel like the game is good now? Like they've really cleared out many of the issues and gotten it into a very good and stable state? Not totally related to the core problem of fixing Fallout 76, but I think something else that is interesting to comment on is the simple fact that it feels like the Fallout 76 experiment failed. I don't necessarily mean that in a financial or even a critical failure, but rather that 1 year after release, the big comeback story for Fallout 76, or what many people are excited for, is actually a total change up of the fundamental features of the game. Wastelanders is bringing it back to a single player focus. They're getting rid of some of that passive storytelling. They're adding in human NPCs, so the drama of other players is largely going to be gone. And Bethesda has stated how this is really the direction they plan for all future DLC. So although the existing content, the base game of Fallout 76, isn't going anywhere, they are doing a significant change on that formula. I personally think this is a good thing, but it really is now going towards older Fallouts. It's bringing features that were fundamental to Fallout 4, 3, and New Vegas. So overall, with all of this in mind, I really do hope Fallout 76 succeeds. I think it really is one of those games that has a lot of promise. It could be a great game. I think if a Fallout 77 was created and it wasn't rushed, Bethesda actually took their time with it, with everything they've learned from 76, they could make a really good multiplayer Fallout. I think that concept has so much potential, but in execution, with the management, with some of the engine restrictions, it seems like it is destined to have several problems. And for me at least, I don't exactly predict all of those just vanishing because one major update comes out that a lot of us have been anticipating. So as always, again, I thank you for watching. Again, I'm sure this will be a more controversial video, but those are just my honest thoughts on that situation. With a video like this in particular, I'd really love to hear from all of you in the comments down below. What do you think? Do you hate Fallout 76? Do you not want it to succeed? Do you love the game as it stands right now and are disappointed they're taking it in a new direction? Or are you somewhere in the middle, like I think a lot of us do fall? You're disappointed to see what Bethesda has been doing as of late. You hope they can improve, but I definitely have my reservations. As always, again, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, but with that, I hope to see you all next time. Later.